Before I begin my address, I'd like to say a couple of things to the young people who are present. No doubt you're already saying, do we have to sit through this speech? And so I'd like to say to you, there are 4 parts to this speech, and there are 4 somewhat vivid stories or images in each part. So if you follow the speech, you might hear and see the imagery, and I shall test you on it afterwards. I'm speaking particularly to my grandchildren. So would you imagine a huge pile of oil drums tumbled together out in the country somewhere, one piled upon the other, each one a different colour: gold, blue, red, grey, grey, blue, red and gold. The Australian artist Geoffrey Smart did this painting. You won't be able to see it, but I'd just like to make sure I've seen it. I've spoken about it before, in fact, of these petrol or oil drums and what he did to them. Well, you see, when he saw them first and painted them, he found the whole scene was somewhat empty and dark. So then he remembered a sight that came to him from some years before: a young man standing on the wharf of Sydney Harbour with his trumpet, very early in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and he picked up his trumpet and blew it to greet the dawn. So Geoffrey Smart took that image of the trumpet player and placed him right there in the centre of the picture. And here in the picture we have the young man raising his trumpet and blowing the notes forth to greet the dawn over and above the drums in front of him. Here is a painting of beautiful imagination, speaking of our emptiness and of the gathering clouds, but also of the dawning of a new day. Someone arouses us from our sleep to feel this sense of inspiration. So a new day, and we want to be part of it today. Those colourful drums were once full of fuel, full of potential energy. But in the picture they lie empty. And the painting claims its inspiration in the young man who was blowing the trumpet to the dawn. We are frequently attracted to our old drums, but though they may still be quite colourful, they are frequently quite empty. They need something. We need something. Something extra to lift our eyes to a new beginning, to start again, a new day. So I say to you, what an astonishing bit of inspiration. What an exciting imagination in the artist. And those 2 words, did you get them? Those 2 words describe the Christmas story, the Christmas myth, the Christmas theatre. The old faith, you'll hear it on the radio and the television today being trotted forth. The old faith keeps repeating the story of a baby being born in a manger, no crib for a bed, as if it was an historical event. The old faith keeps reiterating that this event was God up there coming down to be born on earth, as if this imagery was actual. The old faith keeps singing those carols of Christmas as if they were true, every word, as if they were believable in this 21st century, as if they were acceptable theology in today's world. Well, for some people they are, but for us here, I hope not. The New Faith says, the birth of Jesus' story, that story, is imaginative theatre. Get the theatre. Do you know only 2 of the 4 Gospels referred to the birth? St. Mark's Gospel, the first Gospel written, and written long after the death of Jesus, does not say a word about the birth of Jesus. But Matthew and Luke, from which I read today, have their stories, and their stories differ. But they were not writing history. They were not writing true stories. They were writing imaginative theatre. They knew what this man had done in his lifetime, and they were reading backwards. They heard and saw what he was pointing to during his lifetime, and they realized that he was a person of immense significance to them and to others. So what did they do? They asked the question, where did this fellow come from? How did he come to be who he is? And so they began to construct a story. We do it. If he was an important teacher, they said, let us build a story about where he came from. We know the method. The obituaries in the paper nearly every day. They post up people of important achievements. And then we all search for those lines which tell us where he or she was born, into what family, into what circumstance. So in the Gospels, they built up a story in the midst of the blaze of all they saw in a conquering Roman Empire. Do remember that the story of Jesus can't be extracted from what was going on, the tyranny, the killings, and the violence of the Roman Empire at the time. So a babe, helpless, born in a hole in the ground, not in the cattle shed, not in a house, not in a huge edifice, but in a hole in the ground. No great fanfare, no gathering of all the families, but bring in the animals. Make a star stand out in the night sky. Have a burst of light and a choir of angels descending from heaven up there to sing Handel's Alleluia chorus. Oh, but the birth of Jesus predated Handel's Alleluia chorus by more than 1,600 years. But we still sing it as if it were true, as if it were accurate in every word. The gospel people sang, so it says, the story says, very relevantly to their time, glory to God up there, but peace on earth down here. And they needed more than that. So they said, bring in some shepherds. This is theatre. Bring in some shepherds. Or bring in the wise men on camels, of course, though they probably were on horses. All imaginative theatre. Inspiration, indeed awesome. And when all of a sudden reality hit, the government of the day began killing the kids. If you look at Bruegel's painting of the slaughter of the innocents, you begin to imagine the unimaginable. How grown men and women could kill the babies and the children. But we do it still. The old faith saying, oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. What nonsense. What nonsense. It has been the place of enormous warfare and violence. And even though pilgrims will visit there today, they're searching the wrong place. They're wasting their money. An all Catholic hoax, if I may say so. In reality, those people at the time were living in terror of the slaughter of children. If the story of Christmas in all its fiction said peace to all men and women on earth, let goodwill be your motto, then nobody listened. And so the slaughter of the innocents goes on, with governments, our own included, approving, endorsing, and providing the weapons. That's the reality. Make sure of that. And who listens? Some of you were here the other day at the recital, and I read John Shaw Nielsen's poem of the orange tree, well known here in these precincts. The young girl stood beside me. The orange tree. Imagine it, would you? Imagine the orange tree. The young girl stood beside me. I saw not what her young eyes could see. A light, she said, not of the sky, lies somewhere in that orange tree. But the person alongside her pestered her to describe, what is it you're seeing? What is it? Because they could see nothing. And she continued to plead, but the other person continued to interrupt until at length she said, would you listen? For all your helpless talk, you fail to see. There is a light, a step, a call this evening in the orange tree. She couldn't explain it, but she felt, she knew, she said, there was something important occurring, and with all our talk and business, we could miss it. If you listen, if you're prepared to make the pilgrimage, you may see something being born, even on this Christmas day. Not a baby, not a baby, not a litter of kittens, not a foal in the stables or the paddocks, or maybe all of those together, but listen, and what could be born on this Christmas day? I'll tell you. The good, the tender, and the beautiful. In the midst of everyone's tense and tumultuous times, our busy existence, listen, so that the good, the tender, and the beautiful might even yet be reborn.